Hey guys, Cameron Makachuk here, bodyshapingblueprint.com and host of ReengineerYou. Before we get into today's episode, I just wanted to take a quick second to remind you guys that you can watch the live stream of these episodes as they happen live with myself and the guest person that I talk with. And you can always interact and ask questions and post comments and stuff like that right as we're doing the episode. So it's a really, really cool thing that we're doing with this ReengineerYou, where we talk to experts from all around the world in body and lifestyle transformation, nutrition, lifestyle, fitness, fat loss, all those types of things. And we answer the question, what is the one thing that you can focus on today that will have the biggest impact on your lifestyle or body transformation and your progress? So really powerful stuff that we talk about in these interviews, and really powerful stuff that you can implement right away today that will have a big, big, big impact on your transformation, whatever that might be. So go ahead, and there's gonna be some Facebook likes and Google Pluses and stuff like that coming up to the end of the episode. But if you go to Google Plus or the Facebook page, then just like that up, and you can always get instant updates. Or go to bodyshapingblueprint.com, and there'll be updates there. Or at the show page at reengineeryou.com, and there'll be updates there, and that's where the live stream will be posted also, is at reengineeryou.com. So, but if you follow me on Twitter at cmakerchuk, or like my Facebook page, Cameron Makerchuk, or on Google Plus, Cameron Makachuk, then I'll always be posting updates, and you can always stay up to date on when these live interviews are going to happen, because not always at the same time. So like all that stuff up so you stay connected with myself, and you'll always be up to date, and you can check out the live episodes as they happen. Okay, so that's it for that. The other thing I wanted to talk to you guys about is just something I'm really, really excited about. Something that I've been working on for a long time, and it's finally out in the world, and it's released, and it's ready to start helping people transform their bodies. So that is the Extreme Fat Loss Blueprint, which you should see up on your screen here right now. And it's a complete, total body transformation program. And it could really be the last program that you ever have to buy because of the way I designed it. And I'm really excited about it because it's very well put together, and it's essentially like being a high-paying personal client with myself at my private studio. So everything that I do with my clients in my studio, I've essentially wrapped up into a nice little ball and put into this website, so you can access it from anywhere in the world. It's all video based. All the videos are smartphone friendly, tablet friendly. You can access them anywhere. So really, there's no excuses for not watching and not implementing. So you're getting, a full 90-day training program, and then also there's some bonus workouts as well to keep you going after that. So I mean, you'll have workouts to keep you going for a long, long time. They're progressive training programs, so you're always moving forward, always progressing, always getting stronger. So you're never hitting those nasty plateaus anymore, okay, because of the way of the program designed. So, and you're also, you'll have some nutrition stuff, and also Transformation Academy, which I'll just poke into here right now, is 5 modules, and they're all video modules, and it's essentially like me sitting down with you and going through each of these topics. So I talk about supplementation, good supplementation, bad supplementation, how to choose. I go through how to get started. I go through your training program, what that's going to look like, good training practices, some nutrition stuff, and then some mindset techniques also. So each of those is a video. They're about half an hour long, and I just go through a whole bunch of different things. You can see here we have the Transformation Training Program module that you can watch there. So it's a really, really, really good program, and I'm really excited about it because it's going to help a lot of people. So if you want more information about that, you can go to extremefatlossblueprint.com, and you can check out that, and you can see a really great inspirational story also of one of my clients who lost over 103 pounds using this exact system that I've laid out for you here. So even if you have 20 pounds, 25 pounds, perfect. If it can work for her to lose over 103 pounds, then it can work for you to lose 20 or 30. Okay, so that's all I want to say about that. So yeah, let's get into today's interview with Nick Pineault. All right, welcome everyone to episode number 1 of ReengineerYou, the show where we talk to some of the world's finest experts in body and lifestyle transformation and get them to answer the question of what is the one thing that you can change today that'll have the biggest impact on your transformation. And I'm your host, Cameron Makachuk, Master Transformation Coach, and I'm joined today with a very good friend of mine, Nick Pineault, who is really setting himself apart from the rest of the world in the fat loss nutrition world, and really doing some great things. And so I'm excited to have him here on kind of the maiden voyage, if you will, of this new show that I'm starting up here. So I know he's gonna have a lot of great advice for you guys today. And so welcome to the show, Nick. I'm excited to have you here.
Hey, thanks, Cameron. Thanks for having me. Really appreciate it.
Good, man. All right, well, you have that new product that you just launched, the Truth About Fat-Burning Foods, and I'm sure
Yes.
a lot of people have heard about it already. But before we get to that, let's maybe just get a little bit of your backstory. I'd like to hear kind of where you came from and how you got into the nasty nutrition world.
Oh yeah. That's a good question, because people these days we sold a lot of these, and you get extra exposure. So people try to figure out who that guy is, right? Who's Nick Pineault? Never heard from him. And they're like, yeah, what's your credentials? And are you a doctor or are you a nutritionist? The fact is, I don't have any diploma on my wall, any fancy diploma to show. Basically, I come from a communications background, so that's really where my obsession with information came from. The fact that there's information out there, but some of it is true, some of it is myth, and some of it is hype in the form of marketing. So where's the truth? That's really the question I was asking myself. And being passionate about nutrition for a couple of years now, I just decided to go deeper into research than most people have time to, and most people aren't obsessed enough maybe to research really, and to make it clear what the truth is about certain subjects. For example, I don't know, you got agave syrup, and then you hear one side of the story is that it's the healthiest thing on earth, right? And then you got the other side of the story in some health enthusiasts that's like, oh no, it's a big scam, and it's poison or whatever, it contains fructose. So in the end, I realized most people were just like me. I was passionate about nutrition, but no matter how hard I looked, it took me, I looked at several places, and the conflicting advice over there was just leaving me unsatisfied, basically, no clear answers. So I decided to go deep, try to decipher what actual studies were behind the foods we eat, and come up with a program that could help people transform what's in their kitchen. So that's really the last 7-8 months were really dedicated to working on this, and I've been working on this part-time because I still had a day job, which is now history, thank God. But yeah, I worked on the mornings and just tried to go where people would have probably abandoned research because they're like, okay, there's no clear answer. But that wasn't an answer for me. I just decided to go to research one subject on sugars and on every food out there to help consumers get a clear answer on every one of these subjects.
Awesome, man. Yeah, I was. We were just talking earlier, and I mean, I was reading through some of the book, and yeah, you have some very, very deep research in that whole book, and all of the books that are included in the program. So yeah, you really went deep on that. So way to go, man. That's really good.
Thanks.
Now, as I was reading through it, what do you think is what's the most interesting? I mean, there's a lot of stuff that I found that was really interesting in there, from the protein stuff and the food choices and the hidden facts and the sources and stuff like that. But what do you think was the most interesting find that you found from researching for that book?
Wow, good question. The most, I'm really not sure. I mean, there's a lot of stuff I found or that I thought was true and that wasn't completely true. If I can point to, I can't really point to one example, but the fact is that what I discovered, the most shocking fact I discovered, is that there's an equal amount of misinformation coming from the marketing side of things, the big companies, right? The big evil companies, as people would put it, that want to sell you food that aren't good for you and that use marketing tactics to make you believe so. And there's misinformation, an equal amount, coming from the health community, the health bloggers, alternative medicine, that people want to do good, but that are misguided and misdriven by some old information from a couple of years ago. So, for example, agave syrup. So that's one example I cited just a couple of minutes ago. You see the health bloggers saying, "Oh, it got fructose in it, and it's almost entirely fructose." The fact is that, like honey, because honey contains a lot of fructose too, and it varies depending on where it comes from. So honey can be almost all fructose, but we don't bash honey because it's healthy. And agave syrup turns out it really depends on, is it processed or not. And some manufacturers actually do extract agave from the plant, the actual plant, and then make sure it's raw. And it's basically the same thing as honey. And like any sugar, people often forget they're stuck on some debates like, oh, but what's the best sweetener? In the end, a natural sweetener from nature is better than refined sweeteners. But if you end up having 2-3 cups of a honey or agave syrup a day, it's way too much for your body to handle. So that's really the one thing I realized, like, okay, these people want to do good, but oftentimes they're just, I don't know, I find they're too prone to just deciding this one ingredient is bad and this one ingredient is good. I mean, when we're talking about whole foods, I think we shouldn't be too hasty to just kill one ingredient if it comes from nature. And that's really one thing that I find most bloggers are doing wrong.
Mm-hmm. Awesome. Yeah, I'd agree. I mean, there's a lot of a lot of misinformation out there too, and people that, yeah, like you say, are just trying to do good and help their clients or help their readers, but they don't go as deep into the research as you have in this book, and which is why it's a really good thing that you put this whole thing together, because yeah, there's a lot of people that think they're doing the right thing and think they're saying the right thing and coaching the right thing and giving the right recommendations, but it's just a little bit of misinformation and misguided beliefs, I guess, too. And so yeah, that's really good. That's really good. So I just picked a couple of the things out of the book that I kind of wanted to maybe touch on and get your opinion on a little bit. Some very more of the more controversial things that are in there. So the first thing I want to talk about is saturated fat and cholesterol. So that is something that, I mean, I tell my clients all the time, saturated fat isn't the worst thing in the world for you. It's very, misunderstood, and studies from the 80s were whatever. And so I'd like to kind of get your take on that, on saturated fat, and what you would say to someone who still is under that belief that saturated fat is gonna kill them.
Yeah, saturated fat is really, I mean, that's really the one thing that's where information, people learn from the media and from the best sources they can, so people aren't to blame. But sometimes when you have this idea your entire life that saturated fat, or all fats for that matter, are dangerous, and that you should eat low fat, like the government still recommends this day, and most diets do, it's really hard to change your mind. So I understand why we all meet stubborn people, but to those people, you just want to go back into history. And we used to eat saturated fat and be disease-free, in probably at the beginning of last century, and since the beginning of time. So we used to eat meat and fatty meats and any food that contains saturated fat, raw milk, all those, we used to consume them without any problem, and heart disease and cancer weren't around. So that, while that's not initially, it's just an observation, it's still a strong one. And when you look at the fat content of human breast milk, which is a good indicator of how children should eat, because it's probably nature's perfect food for the beginning of a human life. It contains mostly cholesterol and saturated fat. So again, why would we get sick from our mother? That doesn't make sense to me, right? So, and when we look at the actual data now, the latest studies that have come out, it's again and again, the studies fail to prove the link between either cholesterol in food, in eggs and any animal products, or saturated fat as related to disease or health issues at all. So in the end, it's really when these studies are proving, for example, that red meat is dangerous, they're forgetting a lot of facts around what people following the studies, what kind of lifestyle do they have? Does people who eat more meat end up drinking more beer with their meat? It's all these missing pieces that are missing from these studies, which make them non-relevant. But the media just takes those studies like, oh, okay, yeah, red meat and saturated fat cause heart disease, and then boom, this big headline in New York Times, and then people continue believing that myth. So I mean, when you look at the alternative side of things, and us on the internet, and personal trainers, nutritionists, and holistic medicine, people, it's a known thing now that saturated fat does not cause heart disease, but it's more bad quality meat and sugar and all those artificial ingredients.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's awesome. Yeah, I think I always just kind of shake my head when I see the media claims and what they run with in the papers and on TV and the newspapers and stuff. I mean, I can't even I can't even handle it sometimes. It's awful.
It is.
But you brought up another good point too, which was going to be the next thing I was going to ask you too, about the quality of the meat too. So I mean, obviously that's going to play a big role in it, and I'm a big proponent of high quality meats and stuff, obviously, and so maybe, but I know there's a lot of misinformation there too. I mean, between organic and free range and grass fed and cage free and all these terms that are, like you said in the book, they're marketing terms. And some of them are good and some of them aren't, and some of them mean something and some of them don't. So maybe, like, what's your take on that, and how do you sift through all the garbage marketing terms when it comes to that type of stuff and find some really good high quality food?
It's really hard to be perfectly honest with people. It all starts with one thing. If you want to eat better, you'll do it, and it all comes back to what we used to do, knowing where our food comes from. So the number one best thing, if you live in an area where you know farmers personally and they feed their cattle the right way, they raise their chickens the right way, and I'm going to talk about that just in a few seconds. But if you know them personally, you have 100% confidence that you're eating the right stuff and the right nutrient density. You get all those nutrients. If you're buying supermarket stuff and you find, let's say, grass-fed beef, the big problem is that the FDA and the governmental agencies aren't regulating the terms grass-fed or free range or those terms. So in the end, they can be used as a marketing term, and it's really hard to know where actually where's the truth. Again, are you buying the right stuff? Is it overpriced? But in the end, you'll have to check out, for example, for red meat, you want grass-fed, of course, and you want, if possible, a mention is going to say that the animal has been grass-fed from the beginning until the end, because some farmers will cut corners in the last 4 months and fatten their cattle with grains. So that's called grain finished. The problem with grain finishing, if you will, is that it turns back all the good fats into inflammatory omega-6 you're trying to avoid by avoiding grain-fed meat in the first place. So they're basically, if they, on a health standpoint, they're screwing up their products in 4 months at the end of the cattle's lives. So you want to be sure, if you want to be sure 100%, you just have to check out. Maybe it's called, I don't know, there's a Mr. XYZ farm, and you call them up and check out with them, oh, okay, how do you raise your meat? Or your local butcher. These people are experts, so they usually know where the meat came from. The farther you put yourself compared to your food, if you have a generic package of red meat, you have no idea where it comes from, you're exposing yourself to having the bad quality.
Yeah, and I mean, I'm just thinking back now, like even myself, I get my meat from this place, the local place in Winnipeg here, and it's a really good place. I mean, they get all their stuff from this farm. It's about I don't know what it is, maybe about 50 miles from Winnipeg, so it's not that far from Winnipeg, and it's all locally raised stuff. But I'm just thinking back now, and I think all the meat they have there is actually grain finished, so it's grass fed, but it's grain finished. So I'll have to look into that again now, I guess.
Yeah, one thing I have to say, I mean, if people first, like, you're still eating whole foods. So one thing people maybe read my program, they're like, oh, I'm discouraged. I can get the 100% grass-fed and organic and all this stuff. It's not going to kill you, right? I mean, people have eaten McDonald's, which is probably the most Frankenstein chemical mix in the entire planet, and have survived for decades. So you'll survive. It's only about trying to optimize with what you can do in your life. You're within your budget, of course. If you can afford it, I mean, stick with the regular conventional, and the local place you're getting, I'm sure they're raising their animals the right way, even if they're grain finished. Because compared to the feedlots, there are some crazy feedlots even in Canada, but mainly in the United States, where disease is really present, antibiotics and all this stuff. Those are the things you want to avoid. So if you find a local place and they feed, I don't know, 30% grain, you don't have initially to dismiss them and feel like, oh, I'm not getting the right stuff. There's no such thing as a perfect diet. So I just wanted to add that, because sometimes even I forget about those things and start, oh, my meat isn't the best. Look, you're still going the extra step, and that's good. One step at a time.
Yeah, it's interesting you said that too, that no diet is perfect. I mean, I do the same thing. I always think about, what the perfect thing is, like that grain finished thing. So I'm always thinking, okay, well, I got to get 100% grass fed, or I got to get, 100% this or 100% that. But you're right, there is no perfect diet, and there is, you could never eat 100% perfect 100% of the time. It's just not, it's just not going to happen. And yeah, I think that's a really important thing to mention. So that's good. What about chickens? What do you look for when you go for chickens? Because I know free range is kind of popular and cage free, but like, how do you differentiate chickens, and what should a chicken be eating?
Chicken, yeah, that's the one funny thing I learned actually from my brother. My big brother used to raise chicken, and he told me, you know what, chicken aren't meant to be fed grains. And I'm like, what do you mean? It's written all over the packages, like grain-fed chicken with pride. We feed our chicken grains. In fact, chicken are mainly insectivores, or they eat a couple of other things, maybe 80% insects, I think. So when they roam around, they just look into the grass for ants, for worms, anything that's just around, and they eat that. A couple of grains or greens on top of that, so that makes them omnivore in some sense. But that's where you want the pasture-raised kind or cage-free. Again, the free roam, cage-free, all those terms aren't really regulated. So you want a farm where they're not crammed inside those small barns and just brought to the slaughterhouse, because you want your animals to be as healthy as possible when you eat them, which tells you that they're going to be healthy for you, because the nutrient density will be greater. For example, grass-fed beef contains 9 times the vitamin A compared to grain-fed beef, and that's just because they eat the right thing. They eat the right thing, they get the vitamins, and you get the vitamin. That's how it works.
Okay, awesome. Yeah, that's good to know. That's good to know, because all those labels and everything are all over the place on all the meat and everything, and so it's kind of hard to be able to differentiate between everything. So that's really good. What I'm kind of curious about, what does your diet look like? What do you eat in a typical day? Because my clients always ask me that. They're like, oh, Cam, like, you must eat 100% right, and so, like, what does your day look like? So I'm interested to know, what is Nick Pineault's meal plan look like?
Yeah, it changed. I'm trying to gain weight these days, so I
Oh
don't talk
yeah,
about
right.
it that much because I mean my product is all fat loss, but personally I
Mm-hmm.
have my own struggles, right? So
Mm-hmm.
I've been a small guy forever, and I'm trying to gain some mass. So anyway, I'm on this program developed by John Berardi, Scrawny to Brawny, which is a coaching muscle building coaching program. So they decide what I eat, but I do pick out the best ingredient I can. That being said, I drink one shake in the morning as a post workout. Usually work out for 4 days a week, muscle building workouts mainly these days. I put coconut oil in there, chia seeds, hemp seeds, fruits, and raw eggs. So these days it's whey protein. I use biotrust these days, but usually I'll just look for a cold processed, naturally sweetened whey protein or vegan alternative if I need to have brown rice protein or pea protein. That's fine too.
Mm-hmm.
So I drink 3 big shakes a day because it's part of the program. But I then they just added a breakfast where I eat 4 eggs, some grass-fed meat, and some veggies, along with oats, some nut butter, and just almond milk. So that's the big breakfast, the 3 shakes, and then for dinner I just have whatever I'm cooking with my fiance that any given night. But we usually like curries or a big hearty soup or something like that. But I usually try to again to buy quality ingredients and eat a lot of veggies every time.
Mm-hmm. Awesome. Yeah, I forgot you were doing that scrawny to brawny thing. How's that been going? Are you making some progress with that?
Oh yeah, it's working great. I mean, I've been rehabbing my right shoulder. Couple of years of really bad form training. I wish I had you as a trainer before. Yeah, basically, I used to not feel the right muscles when working out, and I went heavy all the time. So wanting to get bigger, really, that's the mindset of small guys. But it
Mm-hmm.
ended up making me really. All my muscles really tight, out of position, and everything. So I'm still learning. But that being said, it's been 5 weeks, and I've made some considerable strain gains, and maybe gained a couple of pounds. So that's really encouraging.
Awesome, awesome. That's good. Yeah, I kind of forgot you're doing that, so that's good that you've been making some progress with that. That's awesome, man.
Thanks.
Um, okay, well, just kind of to wrap up before we talk about where to find out more about you. So I said in the beginning, I like to wrap things up with what's the one thing, get people to focus on one big thing. I mean, with my clients at the studio, I always do that with them. I'm like, we're just going to focus on one thing. I'm not going to overwhelm you with a bunch of stuff. You know, we're going to focus on whether it's getting more protein or more carbs or whatever. We just focus on that one thing, and it's really easy for them to digest. So from this and from your book and all your findings and everything, what do you think? What would you say is the one thing that people could focus on that'll have the biggest impact on their transformation if they're trying to lose some fat and transform their body like that? What would you say is the one thing?
Um, that's really. Can I say two?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah,
Okay.
sure.
It depends. If you're drinking, that's really one controversial topic, but if you're drinking a lot of milk right now,
Mm,
if you're drinking, let's say, more than 2-3 glasses of milk a day, which I used to do, just try to avoid milk. I know it will be hard, but avoid milk for a week and then add it back for a day and see how you feel. Because a lot of people, pasteurization has been around for a lot of time, but a lot of people are intolerant to milk and realize that, oh, you see those headaches or that mucus buildup in the morning, or just my overall joint pain. I mean, you can get all sorts of side effects from milk intolerance. So it's not like it's killing you or anything. I'm not going into that, but if you realize that it's really a problem for you and you feel way better off milk or at least drinking less, for a lot of people that's really a big change. Just removing even, and don't worry about calcium too much. If you're really worried, take a supplement or eat a lot of broccoli, some raw nuts every day. But that's a whole another topic. But milk
mm,
isn't the best source of calcium either. So in the
mm,
end, one recommendation: if you drink a lot of milk, try to avoid it for a week and add it back. Just see how you feel, and just realize okay, this food is making me feel that way, and if it's fine for you, don't change anything, and go to recommendation number 2, which is cooking oils. The one thing I realize, most people, I used to cook with vegetable oil because it's all over the place. It's healthy, right? If you listen to advertising, but in the end, it's really not, because any plant oil comes from polyunsaturated fats and monounsaturated fats. These fats are really fragile. So when you take the plant and you just try to extract the oil cold pressed, it's okay. And when you heat it or expose it to too much pressure, oxygen, or leave it on the table, let's say, it's starting to oxidize. So it doesn't bring the same benefits to your body, and eventually it brings inflammation. So in short, refined vegetable oil, what they did is they extract the oils at high temperature, and then make that big messy goo with it that's black and that's really putrid, and then they refine it until it's not. So it looks great, it tastes virtually nothing, it's golden, but it doesn't contain basically zero nutrition at all, and it's inflammatory. So what I would recommend changing your vegetable oil with, so just to be clear, vegetable oil, I'm talking about canola, cottonseed, corn, soy, I'm gonna forget some, could be
like sunflower and safflower.
Safflower, exactly.
Yeah.
The two I was missing. If you have any of these, replace them with coconut oil. So there's 2 kinds of coconut oil you want to have. The raw one, or if you will, virgin coconut oil, if you like the taste. And the second one is expeller pressed coconut oil. Try to look for Tropical Traditions. That's a really good brand. The difference, the expeller pressed one is deodorized naturally. So that means you have no excuse not to use it. It's virtually the same taste as vegetable oil, so basically no taste at all. But it's really healthy saturated fats. And if you still think saturated fats are not healthy, just listen 10 minutes ago. It's in fact a natural fat burner. So in some sense, even if you're adding calories, don't go overboard with it. But you can cook it with it safely. And the smoke point is pretty high, so it means your oil won't burn. So that's another thing. Basically, it's a perfect oil. So that's really the 2 recommendations I'll give: milk, and then replace your vegetable oil with coconut oil.
Awesome. Those are good recommendations. That's awesome, man. Thanks. Yeah, and like the milk thing, like I cut milk out a few years ago, and I remember when I first did it, I had all these reservations about it, and like, oh, I don't know if I can do it. This is gonna be bad. But yeah, like you're right. As soon as I cut it out and stopped drinking as much milk as I used to, I instantly felt like 100% better. I wasn't as bloated as I was, and I didn't even realize I was bloated. I didn't even realize I had any issues with it. I just thought it was whatever, and I was fine. But it was noticeable, the difference, when I cut it out. So that's definitely a good recommendation for people, at least to experiment with and try. Like, go a couple days without it and see if you feel any better. So.
Yeah, that's really one part we often forget when people start this healthy eating things, this new lifestyle you're trying to achieve. Just be aware of what you feel. When you eat McDonald's, obviously you'll probably feel, I feel terrible for probably 2-3 hours, because just your body has a hard time digesting these chemicals. But if you eat a natural food like milk, and you still feel bad, you might have food allergies, and these are really common these days, then you get to decide how you want to deal with it, but at least you know.
Yeah, I totally agree, man. That's awesome. Okay, well, just wrapping up then, so you have Truth About Fat Burning Foods, which I think is truthaboutfatburningfoods.com, and I'll put a link or something around here somewhere. Where else? You have a blog too, right?
Yeah, my blog is nickpineault.com. So that's NickPineault. Just Google it, and if you type it the wrong way, it will probably redirect you to the right website. So nickpineault.com, that's where I blog along with my fiance Jen. We're just going full time on this, so there will be a lot of updates in the future. So people listening to this, go check out the blog and just subscribe to the newsletter. Make sure you don't miss anything.
Awesome, awesome, good. Yeah, I would highly recommend it. I've read a bunch of your, I think I've read all of the articles you put up on that blog, and they're all very, very good. So I highly recommend
Thanks.
anyone watching this to go and check out Nick's blog, which I'll post. I'll post a link to it somewhere below this video. Also, somewhere on this page, somewhere we'll have a link to both his blog and Truth About Fat Burning Foods, which is an amazing product. And I'm just making my way through it now, and it's unlike any ebook or anything I've ever read before. So congratulations, man. That's been really, really, really good.
Awesome. Thank you. Really appreciate it.
All right, so that wraps up episode number 1 of Reengineer You. The maiden voyage is over. No technical glitches, which is awesome, so that's great. Now we'll see if this thing actually recorded, which hopefully it did. And so yeah, if you guys like this video, I'd really appreciate it if you comment below, and I'll try to answer your comments, or like it, or tweet it, or stumble upon whatever those social sharing sites you guys are all on. Just throw it out there, get it out there to the world, because this has been a really great episode, and I'm really appreciative of Nick for being here and sharing all that stuff, because there was a lot of really, really good information in there that he talked about. So thanks a lot for viewing episode number 1, and we'll check you guys back next time in episode number 2.